What is going on, everyone? It is Tyler McKinney back here again. And yeah, we're going to go ahead. We're going to give you my power rankings a little earlier this week. Why? Because we might do some fun, different things later on the week. More like looking at our mid-season awards and some of that stuff. And two, we're going to be covering some USFL stuff. So without further ado, let's I haven't given a recap on the last game of week number 5. It was the game with the Renegades at the Brahmas. It was a 12-10 win. It was a little... I have to be honest. It was one of those games that was just... It was kind of a little bit boring at times. And really the stuff that kept you interested really wasn't the stuff on the field. It was kind of the personnel changes and what was happening with quarterbacks, who was going to come in, what was happening in that realm. But in all reality, the Brahmas had a chance at the end, and they just couldn't pull it off. That defense for the Renegades showed up again, and man, they showed up in a big way. 3 interceptions on the day, which was kind of crazy. They had 2 sacks again. This is a really good defense. And if that Renegades offense can really figure out a way to get dynamic, this team could legitimately win the championship. They're a few explosive players away from being a championship team. And really, looking at the Brahmas, I really felt like Reed Sinnott was the kind of the guy, kind of a, I don't know, he's just kind of a neat, different kind of a dude. And seeing him in there really brought spark, and watching him throw the ball and watching, it was a lot different than Jack Cohn. He really, you could tell when he brought us not just a spark, but really you started to see the talent in the positional players, and a lot of it had to do with the way that he was getting the ball out, the way that he was, hitting the wide receivers. I will say that the Brahmas did open up their offense, tried to run a little bit more of an open offense, and it kind of worked with Reed. Like I said, that defense on the other side is a legit defense, but once he got hurt, things just kind of turned sour for them, and that was pretty much the end of the game for them. This Renegades team, I don't know if it's Kyle Sloter, I don't know if it's what they're doing, what they're running. It really does seem like that Bob Stoops, he knows that he's got issues with his offense, and I don't think he thinks that it's Kyle Sloter. Even though Sloter had the interception, I think he thinks that a lot of it, he's not going to come out and say this, and you're not going to come out and say that with Hayes, but you can just tell that Hayes isn't really running an offense that he kind of wants, and you can kind of tell the personnel that they have really isn't conducive to the style of offense that they have. It doesn't really make sense to me. They need to be running something just a little bit more of an open offense here. It is kind of one of those things where I'm just kind of surprised as I look at this team. You would think, looking back at 2020, the team that Stoops had then would be better than the team now. And the reality is the team now has a much better defense. And they look like a worse team, but they have a better record than the team did back in 2020. They're sitting at a better in a better place. So trying to kind of figure all of that out and where all that sits is kind of the mystery here is that offense. And I think if they can I think they're 1 or 2 wrinkles away from having a really good offense. I think the Brahmas found something in Reed. Hopefully he's okay. I don't know. Post-conference said that, they were going to get with the doctor, see what was going on with his foot. Obviously he had something going on. I mean, the man couldn't even really put any pressure on the thing. They got a little bit more out of the running game. But I mean, all in all, it was a tough one. If you're just kind of somebody flipping through, you were going to flip through this one real fast, unless you had some dog in the game that you were watching this or wanting to support them. That really was why you would be watching this game. But then again, it was a 9 o'clock start game. It wasn't a terribly late game, but it wasn't a terribly early game either, to where it was one where you're kind of dozing off, towards the middle of it. Sal Calanella was the guy again for the Renegades. And man, they just, Vaughns, Vandershack, Smallwood, one of these, somebody has to just step up, and I don't see that guy yet. Peyton had a catch here. I mean, they got guys catching the ball here and there, but nobody's really standing out as like this star that they need. They need somebody, and they need some type of a spark on that offense, and that'll take them to other places. So moving on, let's talk about the USFL for a little bit, because man, that's kind of exciting. I'm kind of getting excited for it, and this is going to sound weird to some of you, and I apologize, but I actually think that the USFL is going to be some pretty good football this year. They've made some changes. We'll go into more depth as it is, but all of the guys, today was the official day for training camp to start. And yeah, looking at all the stuff, I'm excited. They cleaned up some of the team uniforms. They got rid of a couple of, so now you've got 2 Steelers teams in Pittsburgh. One's called the Maulers, the other one's called the Steelers. So, I mean, pretty much you can just call them, it's kind of like that knockoff pop that you get at the, the grocery store. So, and instead of getting Mountain Dew at Walmart, you get Mountain Lightning. That's kind of what you've got here with it, to where they've gone to the black and gold, but it looks a lot better than what they had with the purple and the orange and all of that. And so they got rid of kind of that, and kind of those warm colors went to kind of that type of a feel. And now too with the Showboats, I really like what they've got going with the Showboats. We'll break more of those teams down and that as we go with it, but it really has kind of evened things out. It doesn't feel like every team has something to do with the red in it, so that is kind of nice that they've changed that things up. They've got 3 new head coaches that I think are going to come in, shake some things up this year. I think it's going to be good. They've got a lot of guys returning, but a lot of new guys, a lot of unknown talent that's coming in. And to those naysayers that are going to be like, the leagues are there's just not enough talent to go around. It's too spread out. We're not going to get any good football. I call bonk on that. I think you're actually going to get better games in the USFL than what we have been getting in the XFL. That's just the way that I see it right now. Just because you have guys who have been with these teams now, you've got some stability that's there on these teams, these coaches that have been able to work with these players, and then you're bringing the new players into the system. You're not creating a whole complete new system from the start like what we've been doing with the XFL. I like the XFL. I love the XFL. But I'm just telling you that the flash isn't there for the for the USFL. There definitely isn't. But what I want to say, it's kind of one of those things to where I just said a whole bunch of stuff, and I know that I need to do another video, and I'm sitting here thinking, this guy needs to do another video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut all of this out, and we're going to go on to my power rankings for this week. We're going to go week number 6 power rankings, and I'm going to tell you what I've got, and that's what it's going to be. And we're going to come back. You're going to love it. You're going to enjoy it, because I'm going to put the XFL and the USFL head to head, and we're going to get another video like that just because I'm going to do that. I've already been long in the tooth with it, and we need to get going in this, and I feel like it just does itself justice to do a special video just to talk about both leagues, because I love them both, and I think that it just warrants it. So, quit rambling, Tyler. Let's move on. My power rankings for this week. There was a lot of change and a lot of movement, and there's some separation that's happening here. So, starting off, we've got our 2 let's put it this way. We got two groups, those in the hunt and those that have almost been completely eliminated. Guardians 0-5. Believe it or not, they still have a shot just because of how bad the rest of everybody else is. Even though technically they're 3 games back. But really they've got no shot. Vipers pretty much have no shot, even though they have only 1 loss. They are 2 games back. And I just don't see things getting better for them, even though they got the win. They got the win against the Guardians this week. So that's kind of where I sit with them. The Brahmas are at number 6. It was a tough loss for them at home. They really could have pulled things out. I think had Reed been able to stay in that game, we might have had a different story. But unfortunately, now they're 2 games back and they've got to play the Renegades again. That's going to be a tough one for them. So that's kind of the lower group, and I feel like the Brahmas are ones that I think that they can kind of turn the season around. They could probably end up, 5-5 on the season and with an outsider shot at the playoffs, especially if the Renegades take a turn for the worse. Vipers, I don't think have any chance. The Guardians definitely don't have a chance at all. Now, going into that next tier, I've got the Renegades, and a lot of it has to do with they don't have an offense, but this defense is really carrying them to where they're in a bad division. That really all they have is Houston ahead of them. So if they can figure out a way to knock off Houston, I think that they can find themselves in the championship game. And with a 1-game championship, they might be able to pull off the championship to where this team has a legitimate shot at the championship if they can figure out how to get some type of offensive production in there. And I talked about that earlier in the video. All right, now moving up to number 4, I have the Battle Hawks, and it's just been kind of just tough for them. And a lot of it has to do with this loss is going to hurt really bad. It was at home. It was another one of those to where they had a chance to come back and beat the Defenders, and they just couldn't find a way and do it. This one didn't have a big fight at the end of it, but I think it was a little bit more demoralizing to where the Battlehawks are still a good team, but I feel like this loss hurt them and pushed them back. And so that's why I have them at number 4. I think that they're going to be licking their wounds and trying to figure out what went wrong, even though they're sitting comfortably in that second place in the division in the playoffs. I feel like that they have more questions than what they do answers. And then that moves me to the number 3 spot, which is where I have the Dragons this week. And the reason why I have the Dragons there this week is because they figured out how to beat the Juggernauts, the undefeated team, the team that's been blowing everybody out. They figured out how to beat them, even with the issues that Danucci's been having and still the mistakes that they made. The defense stepped up this week huge and, put it to that Houston offense that just had looked unstoppable and, brought them back down to earth, made them look human again, showed the issues that, that they have on that Houston team. So I have them at number 3. And even though they beat that Houston team, I still feel like that Roughnecks team is still the second best team. And a lot of it has to do with they just are that much better than everyone else in their division. I think that they could really limp this thing easily through the finish line and get them into the championship game. I feel that they're sitting that good right now with that defense being as good as they are and their offense. They clean things back up. They get back on track next week, and all of a sudden now, things are different with that team. But I feel like, so in that number 4 spot, you get the Battlehawks who are kind of reeling, falling back, licking their wounds, trying to figure out where things are. You've got the Dragons who are on a high right now because they really have kind of figured things out. They know who they are. They know what they're going to do. And they understand that they're going to have some mistakes here and there. The thing is to limit those and to keep firing and keep coming back to where I feel like they've kind of figured it out, and that they're going to keep moving forward to where this team's going to be really, really dangerous in the second half of the season. You got the Roughnecks that just kind of, they got beat. They need to kind of refocus and turn it back on, and I think that they'll turn this thing back on, and you'll see them at the end of the season cruising again and possibly cruising into that championship game. And then you got the Defenders. Listen, I mean, people can say what they want. That Houston team went undefeated, but now you've got another team that's gone 5-0, and you could have they could keep going, that Defenders team. I mean, they really they're just figuring out how to win, and it's not flashy. It's just consistency. They're consistently getting what they need to get on offense, running the ball, running all over everybody with running the ball, and these teams haven't really been able to stop them. They're passing just enough to get things by, and their defense is playing really, really tough. And so when you have those things, it's hard. It's hard to lose. I mean, they went into the the place that you would call to be the biggest enemy territory, and went in and came out with a pretty big, huge win, and ran all over that team at home. So that's a huge thing. But yeah, those are my power rankings for the week. So all in all, I've got the Guardians at 8. I've got the Vipers at 7, Brahmas at 6, the Renegades at number 5, the Battlehawks at number 4, the Dragons at 3, the Roughnecks at 2, the Defenders at 1. I apologize for me talking all about how excited I'm getting for the USFL to be starting. I love the XFL. I love the USFL. I hope you love them both. We need to support them both. There's enough room for both of these leagues. Don't get in your head thinking that there isn't. There's plenty of room for both of them. We can have fun with both of these leagues, and we can support them all. The reality of it is that we're not one thing or the other. We're all for the players and all these coaches and all these guys to follow their dreams, and these two leagues give those guys that opportunity to do that, so we need to support them. As always, let me know what you think down in the comment section. We'll continue the conversation on down there. Listen, guys, I know that you're busy, and I know that I'm busy, so let's get on out of here. You have a good night. Bye.